She's losing it. But I'll tell you what I think happens here in this story. We'll get to that one. You know what would happen if these squatters stayed in the building? When two guys show up and knock on your door and say, we're going to tell you one time, you need to leave. That's all they're going to say. Not going to say anything else. And what happens next? These squatters will wake up in the middle of the night with a tap on their shoulder. And as soon as they open their eyes, there's going to be 2 or 3 guys in ski masks. And one guy's just going to rain a crowbar down on his kneecap. Smack!
Prospect does sound very tempting, but I think we have to be honest with ourselves. I think that there's something that will be a little bit closer to home that will occur first, but we'll explain that in this video. I don't fully agree with what you guys are about to hear. I do got to say this. We are definitely on our way, and I mean on our way to having people just going around and doing whatever. And while it does, in fact, seem, well, while it does, in fact, seem like it's a good idea, it also seems inevitable. However, it also seems that it could go too far if completely unchecked. Now, really quick, before we start this video, at the time of recording this particular piece right here, because I'm recording it right now at 10:54 in the morning here where I live at on Tuesday. And of course, I know about the Baltimore incident, the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsing. I'll be talking more so about that tomorrow, so make sure you guys please keep the victims' thoughts and prayers. Of course, there are a lot of theories going out there, a lot of people reacting. However, I want to take an additional day to look at the footage, almost like I want to take an additional day before I talk about the situation in Moscow, which, by the way, I'll be doing that after that video this tonight. And of course, I want to just take some time to actually look at everything before I come out here and give you guys my actual thoughts, because we got a lot of things going out there, DEI, cyber attacks, stuff like that there. But we've also got the mayor all of a sudden wanting the imagery censored from said incident. So yeah, I'm pretty sure tomorrow's going to be a pretty fun day. With that right there being said, though, let's go ahead and dive into this. So earlier today, I released a video that I made last night. And of course, that video is up. It will be coming out this afternoon at right around 1 o'clock. And of course, the video is about squatters and squatting incidents. And of course, a lot of people right now are looking at this squatter situation and they're thinking to themselves, dude, these people are absolute horrible human beings. They are. As a matter of fact, the video is even titled, Squatters Are Horrible. It's not titled just like I just said, but it definitely alludes to me thinking that these people are in fact terrible. So what are squatters? Well, squatters are people who show up to these homes, mostly in very, very blue areas, blue states. Of course, I typically tend to use the phrase blue areas instead, because not every single state is exactly what we call blue. Like, not everybody in the state is blue. We'll be talking a little bit more about that in tomorrow's video when we talk about coaching, lynch mobs, and accountability, because there's a lot to go into there as well. The thing is this right here. Yeah, like I said, I got 2 videos tomorrow. The thing is this right here. These people oftentimes take advantage of situations. Like, for example, and I'm going to be showing you guys a couple of examples that I went much, much more in depth about in the first video of the day, involving a situation where you had one family purchase a home that, of course, they were setting up for their child who had Down syndrome to be closer to family. Squatters stepped in while they were trying to move or while they were in the process of getting their stuff together. Next thing you know, they end up staying there, and beyond 30 days, the city, of course, lets their rights kick in. Next thing you know, it becomes a landlord-tenant issue, and, of course, the cops eventually side with those who are staying in the home. While these people, of course, run up the light bill, they run up the water bill, and in often cases, as you'll see right here in a second, they love to, let's just say, post the property online so that way they can get more and more people to move in there, so that way they can make more and more money off them. Let's go ahead and roll this first example.
Wasn't a renter.
Never.
You didn't sign documents that said, we have a tenant.
Correct.
Court documents detail in Flores' own words why he's there. A signed statement says he was hired by the former homeowner as his caretaker, was paid $3,000 a week, and his employment ended in January of last year when the man died. He claims he has a license to stay in the house from the previous owner.
What a lot of people don't realize is in New York, squatters have rights after 30 days.
30 days. How can you have rights if you have no lease, you're not paying rent? So what is your right?
Not only has Flores been living there, they claim he listed the home online to rent rooms to other people. The only way to try and get him out? They're taking him to landlord-tenant court.
5 hearings at civil court.
He shows up, no attorney.
If it's not one excuse, is another excuse.
He filed the bankruptcy. So that prevents everything from going forward.
Meanwhile, they've been paying all the bills,
Leaving windows wide open 24 hours.
including thousands of dollars in utilities.
It makes me feel completely forgotten in the legal system, not able to do anything.
As for Flores, no one answered the door. He did answer the phone.
I'm doing my best to try to get your side of the story, so you're telling me to call your attorney?
An attorney who told me
You're going to settle it through the court system.
no comment.
Our system is broken. We have no rights. We have no rights at all. Nothing, zero.
And this issue may not be resolved anytime soon.
The biggest problem these squatters have, in my opinion, is that these boys never got beat when they were kids. By the way, YouTube, I'm talking about discipline. I'm talking about spanking. A lot of the problems that you have with most people is a lack of self-accountability. And a lot of that's because people have not held them accountable, which, by the way, we'll discuss in another video, more than likely in tomorrow's video. What's going to happen when people who have not been used to being held accountable are actually held accountable? Makes you wonder what just may happen. At first, they'll just simply be locked up and put away from society. But of course, you know how our system works. But we'll discuss that more so tomorrow. Fact of the matter is, these squatters, they're scumbags. Granted, the full news report is in the previous video that I did, the video that will be out at 1 o'clock this afternoon. The thing that you got to understand about these squatters is that these people have absolutely no mercy. So after a while, people are going to start wondering, is anybody going to, is anybody going to come to my rescue? Are they going to come to my aid? Especially if law enforcement is on the side of said squatter. Speaking of that there, I give you guys example number 2.
Yes, you are.
How about that? A squatter standoff. A property owner confronts a group of people she says moved into her $1 million home in Queens, and our cameras were rolling as dozens of officers showed up.
Several people were taken away in handcuffs, and one of those arrested may surprise you.
Investigative reporter Dan Krauth joins us now with more on what happened. Tell us, Dan.
Well, this is a very big growing problem. I received dozens of tips from viewers about this in just the past week. I went to do what I thought was going to be a routine interview. Instead, we capture what police and property owners are dealing with on a daily basis.
I have video of you. Who are these people? Figure out the situation. Yeah, but they're in my house, man. Relax. No.
To understand how this day ended,
We need the police right away.
with multiple 911 calls and a landlord-tenant issue. And by law, it has to be handled through the housing court, not with police. If you own this house, you would not want her inside.
I don't own it.
Exactly,
Yes,
she does.
Yes, but then once again, you should know how the law works.
I do know how it works.
There's rules to the as you got to go to court and send me to civil court.
He says he signed a lease in October, but wouldn't tell us with who.
I got proof longer than that.
Show us the proof.
But who are you for me to show? I showed it to cops.
Dan with Channel 7 News. If you don't want to show it, you don't want to show it.
Proof. Come here, brother. I like that.
I would like to see it. He didn't show me a lease. This is a bill. A bill for work he says he had done to the house. He didn't show police a lease either.
The police department doesn't have the lease?
No.
He's got no documentation.
Just bills.
So Adele, you're getting arrested right now?
I'm being arrested.
For what?
For being in my own home.
And where's your lease?
She's fighting the house. It's not her house anymore.
My deed is current and legal.
Arrested for unlawful eviction. She changed the locks on a man who claims he lives there. So how does this all end then? When do you leave?
The way it ends is either she pays me my money that I put into the house, pay me the money.
In this case here, the NYPD chose to arrest the woman who had the home. By the way, the woman that you just saw, the one who got dragged out in handcuffs, that lady there, and like I said, I go much more into detail in the first video of the day, which I'll link in the description box for this video here. That lady there, that house had been willed to her from family. Squatters don't care. They're there to take advantage of the situation. It's got many people, and of course our boy Tim Pool here, one of those in particular, thinking that what might happen is that vigilantes might in fact show up. I would sit here and say that right there is a strong possibility that next thing you know, you're going to get Paul Kersey's, and on the surface, everything looks pretty good. And of course, I've been saying from the very start that this entire situation could have been avoided if people were in fact allowed to defend themselves. They were allowed to actually use their Second Amendment rights. Now, maybe that right there might be a little bit too harsh in the case of these squatters, but still at the same time, you got to ask yourself a question. Is some form of retribution coming? Well, there are communities around the country that are, in fact, trying to put together some form or some effort to try to clean up their communities. For example, there's a community in Kentucky that, for the most part, this organization is being ran by the church. Now, This same clip that I'm about to show you guys is going to be showing up also in the video tomorrow. Just giving you guys a bit of a heads up because I do have a video coming out tomorrow talking about coaching, lynch mobs, and all that stuff there. And of course, the drug situation, especially on the West Coast, because at some point in time, people will eventually get tired. They will start forming groups and they will begin to start policing their own. It's just to what extent that they will allow to police their own. And by the way, I'm the kind of guy who's very much in favor of people policing their own and very, very much in favor of people. Let's just say I think men need coaches and mentors. But we'll talk more about that in tomorrow's video. Let me go ahead and roll this for you.
Hartford's Armed Self-Defense Brigade made the first of their community patrols Saturday morning on Garden Street. More than 24 people took to the streets armed with a mission.
We're cleaning up the community.
To clean the streets of both trash and crime.
We are tired of the crime and the violence.
The first Armed Neighborhood Watch began with the presentation about Connecticut's gun laws and what's needed to be legally armed. The organizer, Archbishop Dexter Burke of Walk in the Light Church of God, says it says a lot about how many young people are getting involved.
It tells us that there's hope, that young people are tired of the same old traditional bull that we've been experiencing, and they're saying enough is enough, they're rising up.
While Saturday morning's watch was accompanied by a community service event, most of the future patrols will happen when the sun goes down.
We'll be patrolling at night, so it's not just a one-time thing. It's going to be on a consistent basis.
Along the way, the group stopped at the scene of a homicide, which Archbishop Burke said led to these armed community patrols. 2
individuals got killed there, and we just decided it's too close to the church. Enough is enough. We can't allow it no more. That was the tipping point.
The brigade getting pushback from other groups in the capital city, including Hartford's mayor.
It's not the right thing for Hartford. We are a community that's faced such trauma that is trying to work together to heal. And we need all of our leaders, everybody who really cares about this city, to come together and try to heal as a community, not to inflict more violence, not to bring more weapons into this community.
But the group hopes to show the city this armed patrol could make a positive difference.
We need the police support, we need the city support, and we need the continued support of the residents here to continue to make this happen. And we think we'll get it.
And they want to make one thing clear.
We are not vigilantes. We have organized, disciplined, legal security.
Organizers say armed patrols just like this one are expected to happen multiple times a week for the foreseeable future.
At the very end, you obviously see that the mayor is obviously pretty daggone upset with the fact that people are policing their own. You know, the other day I heard, I think it was Malcolm, not Malcolm, what's his name? Roland Martin. Yeah, Roland Martin's fat ass was going crazy over the fact that King Randall was teaching boys in the neighborhood what not to do when the police come around. I mean, we got this issue where we got kids who like to resist police and they end up getting killed. We've had several incidents where people have gotten shot by the police, but of course, if you actually looked at the footage and looked at what the hell was going on, come to find out they were resisting arrest. They were doing anything and everything they could to get themselves shot. By the way, YouTube, nobody is advocating or anything like that. I'm just simply pointing out the daggone obvious, but of course, YouTube will find a way to come in here and probably hit this video or whatever. It's kind of what they do. Still, at the same time, though, I'm here providing you guys the information that you may need, and of course, telling you guys what's going to happen next. So what's probably going to happen as a result of all these squatters and all the crime that's going on? Well, like I said before, people will eventually step up and start to fight back, especially if they see that the police and that these very liberal cities will, in fact, betray them over the criminal themselves. Or it could be like I mentioned in my one-party rule video. It could be a lot of people, and of course this is going to happen, are going to leave these areas. Now, a lot of the people who are leaving, especially if the experiences they have, I'd be inclined that they would not vote for the policies that they voted for there. But still, though, there are some people, quite frankly, who have so much cognitive dissonance in their system that they can't see what the hell is going on, or said thing is happening to them in front of their face on a extremely hardcore basis that they don't want to change. And of course, they also don't feel powerless when in fact they are in fact powerful and can actually do something about it, or at least do something on a lower level, or at least get the hell out of there. I mean, as I kind of explained in the video on one-party rule, the only thing that's going to happen is that the cities are just going to end up becoming bigger crap holes than what they already are. But what about small town? What about small communities that have to deal with this type of stuff? At some point in time, these people are going to eventually begin to band together, and they are eventually going to do what you saw there in Hartford, Connecticut. By the way, that right there was a suburb of Hartford. And of course, as many of you guys know, there are towns that are suburban towns outside of big towns. And eventually, I guess you could say the idea behind it is that we don't want to see the crime, and we don't see the things that are going on in much, much larger American cities, much, much larger metropolises going on in our own neighborhood. And that right there, of course, is admirable. But of course, there are people out there who think that it will, in fact, go too far. And I'm here to answer that question, too. But back to this whole topic of people showing up randomly in the middle of the night to knock on doors and tell people to leave. Let's get back to it.
Text for those that missed this story. Woman in New York, her parents die. She inherits their home and she says, I'm going to sell it. When she shows up to actually check on it, some people have moved in, changed the locks. When she calls the police say to these squatters, can you prove you live here? And when they can't, the police remove the men. The woman then goes to change the locks, but the police say, if you change the locks, we will arrest you. Don't do it. Even though it's her home and those guys have no proof they live there. She changes the locks. It's her house. The cops then come up. Before that, this guy breaks back in the house. The cops then show back up and arrest the homeowner for unlawful eviction. The squatters stay and say, take me to court. Next thing that happens is exactly what we warned was going to happen. Some guys show up and they said to the press, look, we're just going to talk to him. We're just going to talk to him. I wonder what they talked about. Because soon after, these guys split. Not all of them. One guy's on camera being like, I don't know who I paid rent to, but I paid rent, so I live here. And he just seems confused. And then
that's the guy who wants his deposit back.
Right.
He'll leave.
They were like, yes, so you paid the squatters?
Tim goes through the story. And of course, he also explains that in this case, obviously people would in fact eventually show up to get the said squatter in that situation to leave. The situation he's talking about is the situation where I mentioned earlier, the second one, where the lady had a house that was willed to her by family. And of course, there was a squatter in there. The squatter, by the way, and I didn't even make an addendum. To the previous video. And I apologize because apparently I got something wrong really looking back on. But the video is already up, so I might as well just go ahead and let it fly. And I'll address it in the comment section this afternoon once the video gets released. The thing is this right here. In the case of that lady there, she did in fact have the lock changed. She did exactly what any reasonable person would do in a case like that, where you have an actual squatter and you're trying to get them to leave. Change the locks, put up barricades, do anything and everything you can to get these people to leave. This is not their house. This is my home. It was given to me. It was willed to me. It's in my name, all that type of stuff there. He took advantage of me being forced to wait a while to actually move because let's say you're moving state to state. It could take you a while to get your things together. Of course, as soon as you buy the house, it might be a good idea to get somebody you trust to already stay there, or maybe somebody in the family, or maybe do rotating shifts. I really don't know how you would do that, especially when you've got, say if you're moving state to state or place to place. But still at the same time, I've always believed that moving in slowly is probably the best way to do it, and making sure you've got somebody there. Like, for example, when I moved into my place many, many years ago, went ahead, got the place, went ahead and rented it, got the key and everything. Every night, and of course, at the time, I could do this because I was going to school right here in the town that I live in, because I was trying to work on my second degree at the time. I got 3. But the thing is, I'm not trying to brag. I'm really truly not trying to brag. It just shows you how many times I've been to school and college. If anything, it's kind of embarrassing in a way. The thing is this right here. I was moving things in little by little, so that way they knew that my stuff was here, okay? And of course, after a while, and it sometimes can be risky, but after about 5 days of just moving things in, not furniture, I was ready to start spending the night here, okay? So you got to ask yourself a question. While this right here is going on, some people are probably going to say, well, why didn't they do that? But not everybody can do that right away. It depends on the situation and the circumstances. The problem in this case right here is that obviously this woman's place was being, for the most part, invaded and inhabited by a guy who was literally trying to stay in said place and not give it up, not relinquish it. The first example, the family who had a son who had Down syndrome, those people, they got to go through the legal process. And right now at this moment in time, a lot like the lady in the second scenario, the light bill and everything is going through the roof because these people are in fact doing what? They're taking advantage of the situation. They're running the lights, they're running the water, and they're also trying to get people to move in so that way they can collect more money, renting the rooms out. It's a pretty daggone shady tactic. It's one of the reasons why it is that I believe that these people are absolutely horrible in nature. And what happened in the case that Tim was talking about was that guys eventually walked up to the home, banged on the door, said, sir, you got to leave. And of course, the theory is that people will eventually start showing up at night, start attacking the squatter themselves. But we'll get to that.
She's losing it. But I'll tell you what I think happens here in this story. We'll get to that one. You know what would happen if these squatters stayed in the building? When 2 guys show up and knock on your door and say, we're going to tell you one time, you need to leave. That's all they're going to say. I'm not going to say anything else. And what happens next? These squatters will wake up in the middle of the night with a tap on their shoulder And as soon as they open their eyes, there's going to be 2 or 3 guys in ski masks, and one guy's just going to rain a crowbar down on his kneecap. Smack! And then the squatter is going to scream, and they're going to say, you've been warned. And they're going to leave. And when the cops show up, if they show up, the neighbors are all going to say, we didn't see anything. That's where we're heading because of the laws they're passing, because the police are defending the criminals. And now you got this crazy story, which we'll get into as well in a minute, of the illegal immigrant criminal alien saying, here's how you steal homes from people in America, land invasion.
That one's particularly
What's going to start happening now more than ever, especially with what we're seeing with the Daniel Penny case and Daniel Perry in Texas. And now we've got a bunch of other stories I can pull up from the past couple of weeks of vigilante action in New York City. This is it. It is the rise of vigilantism because of the crime spike and because of bail reform. I mean, I didn't even mention this in the opening of the show, but Anna Kasparian says, if being on the left means supporting bail reform, which lets murderers out of jail, then she's not on the left anymore. And Cenk's like, no, it's not true. And she's like, well, I don't know, because they let out murderers in New York. They find these people. They find body parts scattered all over the place. They find these people living in a house with blood, guts, and flesh everywhere. And they say, we're not going to keep them in jail.
I'll let that one run much, much longer. It obviously included a little bit from the very first clip, the thing I opened up with. And here's what I want to say. This right here is possible, but does that constitute vigilantism? No, it does not constitute vigilantism. The people who are inside their neighborhood in Hartford, Connecticut, doing what they're doing is not vigilantism. They're just simply cleaning up their neighborhoods, all they're doing. They're just simply making sure the neighborhood is safe, at least for them and for youths and people, family members that come in. The last thing you want to do is have to invite somebody into a crime-ridden neighborhood that you live in. It's kind of what I was saying a while back about the whole defund the police argument and why it was absolutely stupid, even though obviously people have a much, much higher anti-police sentiment. And I mean, you can only wonder why it is. They've changed the laws to where cops are quite frankly not allowed to do their jobs. But then again, at the same time, though, you're also seeing that a lot of these police officers are in fact just good old-fashioned agents of the state, just there to collect a paycheck and not actually do the right thing. A lot of good cops left during the defund the police movement. And there was even an op-ed saying, you're going to miss us when you were gone. And guess what? People are starting to miss them. I mean, look at the city of Baltimore. They're in a massive shortage of officers right now. They have to hire civilians who aren't even trained. We'll probably cover that at a later video. As a matter of fact, I'll probably discuss that tomorrow while talking about the bridge incident, because there's a lot of things going on in the city of Baltimore that, quite frankly, are just unholy. But the thing is this right here. After a while, people will eventually begin to wake up and people will eventually start to do things, whether it be clean up their own neighborhood or whether it is to start protecting their own. Eventually, they'll do that. Vigilantism, on the other hand, is actually physically going out of your way to actually put somebody down or put criminals down. I wouldn't classify, I mean, this is some real Death Wish type stuff with Paul Kersey, but if you guys know the story of that film and actually know the movie, he didn't originally set out to do that. He found himself in situations where he had to use force to survive. That's how it originally started. I'm talking about the Charles Bronson version, not the Bruce Willis version. By the way, it's the first 3 films are the best ones, at least in that series, and then the 5th one, well, actually it's the first 2, then it's the 5th one. You got me thinking about another movie series. The point is this right here. At some point in time, people do eventually get fed up and people will eventually start showing up and people will, in fact, actually start doing things. Basically, out of fear of what the hell is to come. Now, as far as those who live in the bigger cities, you got Kathy Hochul putting National Guard on the subway in New York City. And I already let you guys know how I felt about that there. If people were allowed to arm themselves and protect themselves, chances are you probably would have a lot less crime. Those pistols, those ability to be able to defend yourself is a much, much larger deterrent than anything you can throw out there. I didn't mention the Daniel Penny case or even the Daniel Perry case out of Texas. The case in Texas, we're still waiting on him to be released. But then again, though, I don't think they ever really actually pardoned him, even though it was pretty obvious that he was not guilty in that case. It was self-defense. The situation involving Daniel Penny, on the other hand, many people have argued was not, and I've seen where people have argued that it was, but in reality, what Penny was doing was he was trying to protect others on the subway itself. It just so happened to be that New York's laws did not take this into account. The New York City public has not taken it into account, which, by the way, has got me thinking that maybe vigilantism, as much as people may want it to come back, or maybe some people may, YouTube, I'm not advocating. I got to obviously watch my language here in terms of service. The thing is this right here. How would the public actually perceive it? Now, guys, there is one more thing that does need to be said before I leave or before I close this video down. In tomorrow's video, I'm going to be talking about coaching, lynch mobs, things of that nature there. And it got me thinking, because I remember when the whole defund the police thing happened, I remember somebody telling me, you know what, maybe good old boys should be out there and taking care of this situation. And of course, we'll be talking more about that tomorrow. I'm not so sure I'm okay with that. However, I will leave you guys with this phrase here and then come back on the other end to kind of like, I say this, kind of understand where we're going to be going at tomorrow.
We got to be a little bit tougher. We have to expect certain things. And we keep throwing money at some of these problems. I mean, you asked me, I'm going to clean up Portland. I will deputize the Gypsy Jokers and the Mongols. I will put a Harley Davidson on every block. We will end crime that day. And I'm not joking about that. They're talking about school shootings and what are you going to do? We got to bring all this money. We got to have resource officers. I will deputize some good old boys that I know. We will make this go away real fast.
Well, why?
Real fast.
We do got to get tough. Yes, we do. If we can get tough now, it won't have to happen to where it is that we need actual people going around having to force squatters out of the home. One of the biggest reasons why these squatters are a problem is because they got no honest-to-God self-accountability, which I think is the biggest problem in America is people's lack of overall accountability. We'll discuss that much, much more in greater detail tomorrow. In the meantime, though, guys, please tell me what you think in the comment section. Please hit the like button, share the video, sound off. Please subscribe. Please hit the notifications bell, and I'll see you guys later.